farmers are just thinking about just directly what's on the property. But when you're talking about environmentalism, you have to look at the bigger picture in terms of the air quality, the water quality, because all these things affect the soil. And I know that there were a lot of storms that hit Georgia. We were talking to the southern rural farmers in Albany and Valdosta. So some of the farmers had a lot of soil being swept away and erosion and things like that. So, but the foundation of your farm is going to be having quality soil. That means that you're going to have a good microbial element to the soil. That means that you're going to have lots of worm activity, and then that will be able to create diversity for the entire, not just the farm, but the area in which you're growing, because nothing is just sequestered here just on the farm. Whatever you do on the farm, people are eating the food, and then if you're doing things where you're using a lot of chemicals, that seeps into the water system, the water table, and it trickles down to other places. So we like to give an overview of how to deal with soil by really talking about environmentalism from the very basic level. So sometimes people say, oh, well, goodness, I really just want to just have this soil, but you have to consider the insect populations, the animals. All these things are affected by climate change, extreme weather, things like that. And that also ultimately will affect what's happening with the plants that you're growing. So if you have water that is tainted and the air quality is low, absolutely that would affect whatever you're growing. So what we have done for more than 44 years at our organization here, the Atmosphere Association, we've done many different studies on the Vedic science of Agnihotra. And what it does is it's a practice that we do in a copper pyramid. We put dried rice, dried cow dung, brown rice, and ghee. And you do this at sunrise and sunset. And what happens is, in the morning time, you have the energies, ethers, and electricities that cascade upon the planet, and it interacts with the copper pyramid. And then what it does, it gives a boost and put nutrients back into the air. And the effects go 8 miles up in 2-mile radius. So we have found through our experiments and to the millions of people that do this in many different parts of Africa, South America, that it's able to deal with plant disease, it's able to deal with water quality, air quality, all of that. And then the resultant ash from this process, you can use this to mix with your soil to build the soil up. So if you have clay-based soil, you gotta amend anyway with some things, but you can use the Agnihotra ash, it's considered an Ayurvedic ash, and to put into the soil, and it helps with the plant roots. You find more worms are in the soil, and it's a way to just build up soil. And plus it doesn't involve any chemicals. And so it's based on the basic circadian rhythm of nature. So at sunrise is when it starts, and then that's when the sun it cascades and brings energy and nutrients to the plants. But that's not happening at the basic level because of the pollution. So at sunset, if you perform it again, that's when those energies are receding, and once again you're putting nutrients into the air. So everything in the area within the 8-mile radius, 8 miles up in 2-mile radius, it becomes more fortified and nutritious. So you'll find that the plants will be bigger, you have less pests. So this is a natural pest control, an Ayurvedic pest control. You'll find that if you're raising bees, I know the honey business that's especially raw honey, that's a huge business if you all want to do that. So you'll find that the bees will have extra nutritious honey. So there are many different ways to apply Agnihotra for your farm business to be able to grow things that are very healthy. So it lessens the harvest time, and then it also increases the plant yield. So like when we grow garlic, and Marnie grows garlic too, so garlic takes about, 8 months to grow. But when you do Agnihotra, you could probably harvest it in about 6 months. So you're talking about being able to produce more food in less time, and in that way you're able to go to market quicker so you can make money. So there are many different applications of Agnihotra, but it's important that we understand as people that these are things that may have been called different things, but our ancestors have done these type of things for a long time. We may have forgotten these things, we may not read an almanac and things like that, but we have to go back to the ways of doing natural things. The microbiome of the soil, it actually is related to the microbiome of your gut. So whatever we're growing, it has to have nutrients in it, or else you're gonna have people that are having all these diseases. And it's just not the stuff that you're finding out with the Roundup and the, I think the brother, Dr. Tyrone Hayes, I met with him when he spoke at the Botanical Gardens, but he was the one that was the whistleblower about the atrazine in California. They were following him. They were trying to say that he was crazy because he was working in the lab and he saw that the atrazine was turning the male toads into females. So he published it in some scientific publications. They tried to retract it, but they put it back in there because he was absolutely correct. So, but these things have an effect on all of our bodies. So we try to talk about the simple things that we can do to build soil health and get these chemicals out of the soil. Because like I said, that affects the insect behavior and even the animal behavior because they're stressed. Just like if we are stressed out, you know how we act. Maybe our stomach hurts, we get a headache, and we get sick. The same thing happens with our plant friends and our insect friends. They get stressed, and then they're not going to do the things that they normally do. And because of the climate change and the pollution, absolutely it affects the plants. And I don't even think people see as many bees anymore because of what we've done to our planet. So when you're doing Agnihotra, you'll see more bees, and you'll also see more native populations on your farm. And so what you want to have those native populations because that's good for the overall health of the ecosystem. So you don't have to plant so many things. The things will come up on their own. So we have, at our main location, our 13-acre farm in Tuskegee, we have lemon eucalyptus, we have neem trees, we have elderberry, we have a lot of these things we didn't on purpose grow. They just came on their own. So if you all are talking about growing these things, you don't have to worry about trying to specifically grow these things. If you're doing these things that encourage biodiversity, then they will come up on their own. And then if you, on your farm or your urban garden, if you want to have a foraging class, a foraging tour, I heard someone talking about agritourism, so you can say, hey, this is an Ayurvedic farm. Here's the bee honey that is extra nutritious. Here's the plants that are grown with that, because the plants do grow very strong. If for those that are urban gardeners, we had a garden class last week where we set up a keyhole garden. And this is a permaculture type of garden setup where you use the logs or the stones in a particular area, whatever's there, and you form it into a keyhole. They first did this in South Africa with, I think, the Care Agency, where they had poor soil. And this is a quick way for them to build up soil. And you just put in your wood chips and different things like that, your scraps of wood and grass and things like that. And when you see those gardens, they're quite beautiful, and there's a lot of diversity in there. So those for you all that are doing urban farming. Now on a regular farm, I don't know if you can do that on a regular farm because the keyhole garden is meant for you to just walk to the edge, and they have a chicken wire at the keyhole portion, and you just put your veggie scraps there. And then that feeds the entire garden, and you don't have to do that much watering. But absolutely for those that are doing urban gardening, this would be something, as an example, that you can do. You can have a keyhole garden, you can have a mound garden. You wanna have different examples of how to grow things in natural ways. And then we can, when we take questions, we can get more broken down into those of you all that have farms, or whoever has urban farm, I can answer questions of that. But I just wanted to make sure everyone understand that to build soil, you have to take care of the environment. So this is a way to do all of that. Your air quality would be clearer and all of that. And we had the biolab fire a mile from where we are at the Conyers location. So let me tell you how bad that chemical spill was. I'm right down the street from it. I came back, I evacuated for day one, came back, and you could see the plume of chemicals going up in the air. You could taste it in your mouth. But as soon as I came back to our side of our garden educational place, it was clear. The air was clear, and my neighbors were walking around, these elderly people that are my neighbors. They were like, oh, it's a chemical fire, and it's a field that way here. So, and I didn't say to them, this is the reason why, but somebody came by to buy a pyramid, and was like, oh my God, it feels good over here. Let me hurry up and buy one, because the children were having bleeding eyes, bleeding noses. People were having very bad symptoms from that chemical fire. So this is a way to deal with those types of things that come up that are not planned. So there's a lot of different applications in terms of protecting the environment through, it's called Agnihotra or homotherapy. And like I said, the ash is what you would use. Let me see what that looks like. I have it here. But this is dry cow dung from our cows. You're using brown rice, and then you use ghee, which is nothing but unsalted butter. With the fat removed. So there are many scientific studies that have been done in other countries, and then we do have they're not official studies, but Tuskegee University did tests, as well as Auburn University. They're not official studies, but in a portion of the Amazon rainforest where they had a plant fungus, and they had to move from that area, several people like myself went and did the fire, and there were other fires for 3 months, and it restored the area and cleaned up the plant fungus, and the people were able to move there. So on Google Scholar, you'll find, I have a couple of them here, you'll see the things where they have a Petri dish test and things like that. They deal with the pathogenic bacteria that is taken from the air. So you're not gonna find many studies here in this country because there's no money in this. There's no money in it. So somebody says, well, this makes no sense. I've never heard of it. I said, there are plenty of people. There are a lot of people in South America, Mexico, different places, and I think I did a permaculture podcast, and somebody said from, I forget whichever part of Africa, wait a minute, my neighbor does this, and his farm does very well. So we're trying to tell as many people as possible that there is a way for you to grow healthy food without using chemicals. And then also in the process of you cleaning up the environment, it keeps you healthy too. So, because we are the sacred caretakers of this planet. Now, we're not acting like that very often. So this is a way to really take care of your planet and get really good results on your farm. And then I will stop here because I'm sure that somebody has some questions specifically.
Yeah, I have one. Like, what can you tell us? How much do you know about the history of agriculture at Tuskegee University, and then what's going on at Tuskegee University now from an agricultural perspective?
Okay, so we're going to be working with some Tuskegee University students that are part of an environmental group. One of the young ladies is doing an acid rain study, and then they're doing a resources map for Macon County, which is the county there, and they put us on the map, and they want our feedback on to the food resources in the area. Because like you were saying earlier about these places that are food deserts, or even the government calls them food swamps, you need to be able to address these areas, especially in the rural areas. So we're always working with the local people, especially the students, because we have to address these things with the people farming, or even having I like the idea of the grocery store for the neighborhood, so, because some of these places don't even have any grocery store. So we're gonna address these things in rural town. And I know in Georgia, we do have some food deserts in different places, but we travel all around, not just here, but out of the country to teach these things in other, the spaces where people have to address that. But at Tuskegee, and a lot of what we teach, we go back to, and I have it on the resources list, go back to George Washington Carver. Read some of those archival newsletters, because he paid attention. And that's why he was able to have a solution for the farmers who were doing, their crop was cotton. Cotton is very water intensive. It's, when you do it, just the monocropping, it tears up the soil. They didn't think that they could make money without being able to do the cotton. So he said, hey, you got soybeans, you have this, you have that. The peanuts.
Crop rotation.
Yeah, crop rotation. So we are all for these different things, and so we can talk about the many different ways into to do companion planting and rotating your crops, so that way you don't have these issues if you all are trying to do large scale farming. But I would say go back to the archives of George Washington Carver, because he himself, he didn't even consider himself a scientist like that. He said God told him through the plants how to take care of the problem. So we have to get back to that mindset of let me sit still. He would go out at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then he would sit still, and that's how he was told about the soybean, the peanuts, and the sweet potato. So I really encourage everybody to do that, especially when you all are doing your farm map. Just you yourself, just go and walk around, see where the wind blows. Okay, where's the animal path? Where's the water sources? Make sure that you have the farm in the right section. If you have a house there, where is the house situated? That is like the mind of a permaculturist.